The protagonist was saying that his bastard manager told him that he has to box from the start of the hellish training. And if you ask why he didn't quit, well, there was no option to say no, so he chose a slightly better hell. The man kept saying how the manager admitted that he didn't make him box because it was easier, but because there was nobody from the junior division to practice with him, and that's why the protagonist was chosen. Then, the man asked one of the robots if it isn't a ridiculous situation. The robot answered that he doesn't understand, and if he could explain that again. Then the hunk of metal looked at a box and stated that it's an unregistered product. The product needs to be moved elsewhere. It then picked up the box and left the protagonist alone. The man, with a disappointed voice, said, "Alright robot, go do your job." At that moment another robot stated that he's transporting a package and the man is in his way. The man got out of the way and the robot thanked him. It then continued transporting the package. The protagonist sighed and said that there is no warmth in that place. How could there be no humans at a logistics center? I understand that it's technologically advanced, but still. Because of this, the protagonist was saying that he probably chose to work at the wrong place. 2 months ago, the protagonist was discharged from the military. But the joy of being discharged was short-lived. His parents called and informed him that they moved to another area, in Wajongbu, in a bigger and nicer house. That means that the protagonist will have to live alone from now on, in a studio apartment. Then the job hunting started. His parents paid for 6 months of his rent, and also he had some money saved up. Plus he was also benefiting from the government scholarship for multi-child families, so he wasn't in a rush. But he had created a lot of false hopes for his future job. The world is not as kind as he had hoped for. When he applied for a job at the cafe, he was refused because he had no experience. After about a month of job searching, he began to go crazy from the extreme boredom. He couldn't even get a job in retail. He texted his 2 sisters that he is the most useless person in the world, and they weren't very supportive. They made fun of him for not being able to get a job. But one of his sisters told him about a delivery company that is hiring. That got him interested. That's how he ended up working in this place. While looking at all the robots, he kept repeating that there is no warmth in that place. He is definitely at the wrong place. He had never imagined that his conversation partner would be a robot. Then, someone called his name, Kim Jeongeum. It was his manager, Shin. He told the protagonist that the tuna cans are out of stock but packs. The management systems is indicating that there still are some. So, he should go check in the warehouse to see if any stock is missing. Kim Jeongeum agreed to take care of this job while the manager continued to take care of other things. That interaction made the man think that the logistics center is actually warmer than his boss. In the warehouse, Jeongeum was walking along the racks filled with boxes, looking for the tuna cans. After he noticed the boxes he was looking for, he grabbed a ladder and retrieved a box. He noticed that they were supposed to be on the first floor, and that's why they couldn't find them. The protagonist heard a sound, and looking towards the source, he saw the doors closing automatically with a bang. He then ran towards the door and tried to open it, but no luck. He grabbed his phone and tried to call his manager, thinking that it's really stupid to get locked inside the storage. The phone call wasn't connecting, and it was going straight to voicemail. Jeongeum was becoming frustrated with the situation because his boss wasn't answering and was considering calling 911. This place is not a freezer, so the signal should still be good. But the situation wasn't serious, so calling 911 might be unnecessary, and might also make things awkward with Manager Shin. He decided to just wait for now, and if nobody opens the door soon, we'll call 911. Then, he sent a photo to his sisters and told them that he's stuck in the warehouse. One of them started to make fun of him. After that, she said that a building collapsed. She then called him and the protagonist answered the phone. But he couldn't hear anything. Getting tired of waiting for her to talk, he said that she shouldn't prank call him. At that moment he heard a loud noise and the entire building started to shake. That completely startled him, and then the alarm started blaring, which added more to the confusion. The emergency system activated and all the employees were urged to evacuate and take shelter. Hearing this, Jeongeum panicked and started to bang on the door to ask for help. He then grabbed his phone in order to call 911, but there was no signal. That made him think that there might be a war outside, adding more to his panic state. Then, there were a bunch of powerful bangs, and the steel door was bent. At that moment, he instinctively knew that if he makes noise, he will die. At the same time, a loud shriek was heard. He was in a state of panic, and realized that the sounds weren't coming from humans. Falling to his knees, he didn't know what to do in this situation. The protagonist was stuck in the warehouse for the last 3 days. He ate the tuna cans he found in the first day, in order to survive. Because nobody came to look for him, meant that something big must have happened. It might be a war, but it's not sure. What is certain is the fact that being stuck in the warehouse saved his life. The alarm that was blaring loudly stopped a day ago, and now he is able to sleep. He was wondering how long will he be able to survive there. He was also almost out of battery for his phone. Jeongeum was hoping that a soldier of his country will open the warehouse and that his family is safe. He started to talk to himself that it's nice now that it's quiet, but he still wanted to know what is going on outside. Then, a message appeared in front of him, saying that he was chosen and to check his awakened ability. The name of the ability was My Own Subspace, and it allowed the user to store one object in the subspace. Seeing this, the protagonist was thinking that he finally lost his mind. Now he can't even distinguish fantasy from reality anymore. Amused by the situation, Jeongeum was saying to himself that lasting 3 days is impressive and jokingly said that he will put the PAX fulfillment center in the subspace. Another message appeared asking if the man wants to continue with storing the target in the subspace. The protagonist agreed, and then something happened, because he wasn't inside the warehouse anymore. He was outside, among a bunch of ruins. This didn't look like the same city he was used with seeing every day. It looked like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Seeing all this, the man was feeling nauseous, and at the same time another message popped up. Storing starting. And while he was throwing up, another message showed up. An operating system for your system has been found. Jeongeum was feeling really bad, his head was hurting. But then, he noticed a shadow from behind. There was something behind him, something deadly. He knew that he has to keep his calm if he wanted to get out of this. The shriek he heard a couple of days ago was a gorilla or a bear? Now, he was thinking that it's passing through the area, but at least it's not agitated. All of a sudden, the protagonist started running and calling for help. The creature got angry and started following him. After seeing it, Jeongeum got even more scared. He was thinking that it might actually be an orc. But why is it following him, and why is it so fast? If this continues for longer, the creature will catch up with the man. He then received another system notification. The synchronization is complete. The subspace is available for access. Then another message, asking the user to consent to entering. The desperate protagonist agreed immediately. The monster was about to reach him, and the man lost confidence that he could actually escape, but 1 moment later he was safe. When he realized that everything is fine, he opened his eyes and saw that the orc couldn't pass through the same portal that saved him. Surprised by the situation, he asked himself if the monster cannot come in. And a drone gave him a positive answer. That was another surprise. The drone continued that without permission from the master of the subspace, Kim Jeongeum, no living being or object can enter or leave. Another message from the system appeared. This announced the user of his arrival inside the subspace. That's when he realized that he was actually inside the fulfillment center he was working in before the start of the apocalyptic events. All this was still very hard to believe for Jeongeum. Orcs, subspace, and talking drones. He also couldn't believe that the entire PAX fulfillment center was inside this subspace. 2 new messages popped up. The first was part of the tutorial and announced that the user entered subspace for the first time, and the second announced that the user received a mana stone for completing the tutorial mission. The mana stone showed up right in the hands of the protagonist. It was shining brightly. He then got startled by the big orc punching the portal. It was really mad because he escaped from its grasp. Still scared, Jeongeum asked the drone if it's sure that the monster cannot enter, to which he received a positive answer. He then got 2 new messages, one informing him about the size of the pack's fulfillment center and another about the shipping speed, number and size of shipments. Looking at the second message, the protagonist didn't understand what the 60 km/h shipment speed meant. He then noticed something else. It was saying 2 minutes until maintenance, and the man figured out that that's how long the center has energy for. Then, the drone explained that he can use the mana stone to supply the center with energy. Jeongeum has currently 1 mana stone which can power the fulfillment center for 24 hours. As to be sure, the man asked if only 1 mana stone is necessary, to which the drone answered that once the pack's fulfillment center was stored in the subspace, its energy supply system had to be modified in order to fit the subspace environment. Still not being able to believe what's going on, the protagonist asked how could that be possible while thinking that the management system of PAX got a bit smarter. The drone announced that the energy supply has been cut off, and in this case PAX Fresh and other PAX products could face serious issues. PAX Fresh is a delivery system that stores and delivers fresh vegetables, meat and prepared meals in frozen and refrigerated conditions. Jeongeum was thinking that outside is in chaos right now, and in such situation food is the most important resource for survival. And now, the power from all the freezers and refrigerators was cut off. Looking at the drone, the protagonist said that this is a problem and asked again if the mana stone can maintain the entire center running for 24 hours, to which he received a positive answer. He then continued asking how can he get more mana stones. The drone answered that they can be obtained from beings of another world. Looking at the orc behind the portal, the man was thinking that he found one. He then offered the mana stone to Pax, in order to keep the facility running. Jeongeum then asked if he can search for the items inside the facility, just like before. The drone answered that yes, and what items is he looking for exactly? A bit later, after receiving the box of items, he was deliberating which item to choose. Then, he picked a camping axe, thinking that it might be useful for what he wants to achieve. Thinking better about his situation, the protagonist said that it will be hard to get close to his target, so throwing them will be better. But then, the problem will be that he has no experience with throwing weapons and his stock is limited. But can these weapons even penetrate the tough skin of the monster waiting outside? Also, seems that the monster won't leave, it will just stay there and stare. He doesn't have to kill it in one go. If he inflicts some serious wounds, every time he throws one weapon, he will eventually kill it. Thinking that he was in special forces, and that he can do this, he threw the axe, and it hit the target. But the orc didn't even flinch. After throwing a bunch of weapons at the beast, it was still standing, because all those wounds were more like grazes. Looking for another weapon to throw, Jeongeum was thinking that all the blades he has are light and only leave scratches. The only one that might leave a wound is the heavy axe. But there is only one in the box and maybe 2 more in stock. Then, he asked Pax to search how many more axes are in stock. While the management system was looking for all the axes, the protagonist was thinking about throwing something more heavy, like a bowling ball. If sharp objects don't work, then targeting the joints with heavy objects might be a good idea. Pax finished counting all the axes in stock and answered that there are 15 left. That made him think that there aren't many in stock, so he should save them for later. Then he realized something, and asked Pax if there were 15 when he first took one from the stock, and where are the axes located. Once arrived in the warehouse, Jeongeum noticed that the items were duplicated, and asked the system why is this happening. The explanation was that the items are created by converting real objects into information, therefore, they can be duplicated. The items can be damaged or altered but cannot be depleted. And then, the protagonist realized that this is an infinite stock logistics center. He then had another realization: he can just throw as many axes as he wants, without worry, but his shoulder might dislocate before the monster dies. The drone added that there is no need to throw the objects manually, the items can be delivered outside automatically. Although, there are restrictions, shipping is only possible once every 30 seconds, but the shipping time can be reduced by enhancing the skill. After hearing this, Jeongeum asked how can he do it. The system answered that he only has to think about the objects, and then say ship. The man said the word ship after thinking about the axe, and the monster was killed in one hit. That left the protagonist without words. It was more efficient than he expected. He then asked what was that high speed, to which Pax answered that the default shipping speed is 60 kilometers per hour. That surprised him, but also helped him understand what the shipping speed meant. The drone continued saying that the shipping speed can be adjusted to a maximum of 75 kilometers per hour, and to go beyond that he needs to enhance the skill. The man asked how can the skill be enhanced, and the answer was that skills need mana stones for enhancing. Looking at the dead monster, the protagonist told the system that he needs to look for some items. He then equipped a pair of tactical boots and combat pants. He was getting ready to explore the outside world. One more item that he needed was a map of Seoul. He also got a marker and encircled the points of interest. His plan was to go to Ujeongbu, so he created a route that can get him there the fastest. Because he starts from Gunpo, which is quite far away, he was thinking that he needs to hurry. It is quite a long distance, but he has a decent mode of transportation. It's not as good as a car or motorcycle, but right now, in this situation, is as good as a supercar. He wished for everyone to hold on a little longer because him, the youngest of the family, is on the way. In the 30 minutes after leaving the subspace, Jeongeum was able to kill 12 orcs. And while hunting the 12 orcs, he was able to learn two important things. First, about his ability. At the beginning, he was too distracted to examine it properly, but after using it to hunt the monsters, he realized that it's a truly overpowered ability. It has its limits, like the 30-second cooldown and the 10-meter range limit, but all the skills can be upgraded by using mana stones. Also, delivery is not the only ability that the PAX Fulfillment Center offers. There is also the product retrieval ability that automatically retrieves dispatched items. It's as useful as the shipment ability, maybe even more useful, because it can be used to even retrieve the mana stones of the monsters that were killed. The protagonist was thinking that it could have been awesome if he could recover the mana stones without killing the monsters, while getting a message about gathering another mana stone. Jeongeum started talking with the drone about how product retrieval is about recovering dispatched items. But he didn't dispatch the mana stone. But it seems that if he kills a monster, the mana stone becomes his. But it doesn't matter how it works, as long as it does. He was also saying that putting Pax inside the subspace was really good idea, because as long as it is maintained there is no risk of dying inside. All he has to do now is to find his family and get them inside the subspace. He then heard a screech, and looking up, he noticed a flying monster. The second thing he learned from hunting orcs was that there are multiple types of bizarre creatures, not only orcs. Looking at the flying creature, the protagonist noticed that it was carrying something, probably a deer. This monster is bigger than an orc, so it's probably harder to hunt. He then heard a scream. A man was running with a desperate look on his face. From behind, somebody screamed his name, Mr. Choi, and at the same time a flying monster flew right above him, hitting the man with its tail, knocking him to the ground. The other man was running towards Mr. Choi, asking if he's okay and urging him to get up, when the big flying creature landed between the two of them, making the men freeze in place. The other man didn't understand why the monster was ignoring him, and then he realized that its target from the beginning was the smaller Mr. Choi, who was struggling to get up. Is the monster thinking that the man on the ground is an easier target, and that's why is ignoring the other man, who didn't know what to do in this situation? He had a knife, but it's too small to actually do any damage to that big creature. He then noticed a bright light coming towards them. It attracted the attention of both the men and the monster. Then, in an instant, the head of the creature was hit with something and fell. The men couldn't believe what just happened. Looking at the dead body, there was an axe in the throat of the big monster. The surprised man couldn't believe that someone managed to kill a wyvern with only an axe. The protagonist arrived while thanking the gods that the monster died in one hit, and asked the men if they are alright. The two men had no words, but were thinking that the man in front of them is a soldier because of the way he is dressed. Then, they asked Jeongeum if he is actually a soldier, and proceeded to bow and thank him for saving their lives. The protagonist stated that he's glad that they're safe, but he is not a soldier, but an employee of PAX Fulfillment Center. The men were even more surprised, and stated that he has a lot of strength for someone that works in a fulfillment center. He managed to kill a wyvern by throwing his axe while riding a bicycle. To Jeongeum's surprise, the two men also understood abilities. One of them said that he also has one, the humble driver ability, but given the circumstances, he didn't have the chance to use it. Mr. Choi said that he doesn't have an abilities, and that makes him a bit envious. The protagonist asked if there are any people in the area, to which the small man answered that no, because there are a lot of monsters here, even if the fulfillment center is close. Initially here is where people started to group, but the monsters killed everyone. Now there are only a handful of people left, and they all are in the underground terminal. That is the place where they also come from. The other man stated that they were looking for resources and a working car, but then, the fulfillment center disappeared. Mr. Choi proposed to their savior to join them to their base if he has nowhere to go. It's safer than anywhere else because the monsters don't attack, so he can at least get a good night's sleep. Jeongeum was considering the offer he just received. He doesn't need food or a place to sleep, but he needs information, especially about any functioning vehicles. He then accepted their offer, saying that he cannot refuse, and thanked them for the generosity, even if he didn't fully trust them. But they are in the same situation. If things go sour, he could always escape into the subspace. The protagonist recovered the mana crystal of the wyvern without the two men knowing, while thinking that they don't know his ability, so he has the advantage. Sometime later, an orc was lifeless at the legs of a man, who seemed to be the one that killed it. Jeongeum arrived in the underground terminal the two men were talking about, but this place was looking to be in a worse condition than he initially expected. The man that killed the orc stated that he can see a new face, which made the protagonist think that he might be in danger. Mr. Choi rushed forward and asked what happened and if everyone is alright. He was informed that everyone is fine, and that an orc wandered in there by mistake, but it didn't see them, so they were able to ambush it and take care of it. None of them is injured, but they cannot continue to stay there anymore because it's no longer safe. Following the events in front of him, Jeongeum was thinking that he was promised this place to be safe. Then, the one who seemed to be the boss asked who is the new guy, and Mr. Choi answered that it's the man who saved them from the wyvern. He also added that his savior used to work for Pax Fulfillment Center and is very strong. He was able to take down a wyvern by throwing just one axe. That impressed everyone in there. Then, someone went straight towards Jeongeum and grabbed his hands, which startled him, but with a radiant smile, the woman that approached him thanked him for saving Yongsu and Byongkyul. Everyone started thanking him for saving the two men from the wyvern. The protagonist, surprised by the situation, said that he only did what he had to do. The woman then asked if he has a girlfriend, which made another man say that she should stop talking nonsense. The man who seemed to be the boss said that they all worked together for the last 10 years, so they are like family. He then presented himself as Lee Jin-mak, the center manager of Daehyun Express Terminal. He also thanked the protagonist for saving the two men. The savior also presented himself, and was invited in the base of the survivors. Jin-mak started saying that even if this place is not safe anymore, it's still more comfortable than outside. They have food, water, and he can take a rest while they stand guard. He also invited Jeongeum to eat as much as he wants because they have plenty of supplies, and they can get even more from the logistics center. One of the survivors got the attention of the center manager and stated that he has something to say. The logistics center disappeared. That piece of information left everyone surprised. Then, Jin-mak asked how could that be possible, and Mr. Choi answered that the logistics center is truly gone, and that is the reason why they were chased by the wyvern. The survivors couldn't believe that this is true. How could such a big building just disappear? With a defeated spirit, the center manager said that with monsters running around, what's impossible these days. The people were starting to panic after hearing this information. They didn't know what to do. Seeing this, the leader told them that they have to dig through the tunnel because if they stay here, it will only get worse. Nobody should feel discouraged. They only have to dig the tunnel faster than initially expected. The older woman also started to encourage the people by saying that even if they don't have the logistics center, it's time for them to go. Jeongeum didn't know what they are talking about and asked what is going on. Jean Mok answered that all of them have families in other places and cars are essential for them in order to get to them. Then the protagonist asked if they have any working vehicles, to which the center manager answered that there are working cars everywhere, but the problem is that all the roads are blocked. The north is blocked by the golf course, the east is blocked by containers, and the expressway in the south is completely destroyed. The tunnel in the west is their only exit, but a group of wyverns took over the tunnel. Until now they have survived by getting food and water from the logistics center, but now they have to force their way through. Jean Mok also added that the protagonist doesn't have to go through the tunnel. There are still ways to exit by foot or with the bike. Jeongeum answered that he also wants to go through the tunnel because he will use a vehicle to exit, while thinking that he can use his ability to clear the wyverns from the tunnel, even if it's going to take some time. Jean Mok stated that he cannot stop their guests from joining them into clearing the tunnel, especially when he is that strong. The protagonist declared that he wants to help, while thinking that he doesn't want to show his abilities. Even if these people seem kind, they are very different from him. While he was trapped in a safe place, they had to struggle in order to survive. They stockpiled food and supplies and are not sharing the exact amount. They know how important food and water are, so it's not information you can share with anybody. Which is fine because he also needs the same level of caution. Then, he stated that he wants to assess the situation in the tunnel and the number of wyverns, so he'll go scouting. At the same time, was thinking that this way he can use his abilities and clear the way without any worries. Jeongeum was also thinking that he has some mana stones saved up, so he can upgrade his abilities if he needs to fight many wyverns. If he goes alone, he can get the mana stones for himself and further upgrade his abilities. But things didn't turn out as he wanted. He wasn't alone. Yongsu said that it's dangerous to go alone, to which the protagonist answered that he disagrees because he can protect himself from wyverns, unlike his current companion, who insisted that he cannot allow his savior to go alone. Also, he believes that he will save them again. Jeongeum asked the man if this is the first time using his ability, and if he can see the message window. To which the answer was that he never saw the message since he awakened his abilities, but he has a feeling about how to drive. After hearing that, the protagonist became worried, then said to try and drive, and if it doesn't work, they will just walk. A bit later, Jeongeum couldn't believe what he was seeing. Who rides a bicycle like that? He then asked his companion why is he doing that, to which he answered that there are many cars on the road and it's hard to see. Then, he said that there is a wyvern ahead, and the protagonist asked where. The monster was right behind a car. The driver started to panic and asked what should they do. But the wyvern was dealt with in a short moment, and Jeongeum screamed that the driver should look ahead and not behind. He also collected the mana stone while cautioning his companion to absolutely not look back. Yongsu announced that they arrived at the tunnel, which surprised his savior. The trip was shorter than expected. After stopping, the protagonist asked why. They still have a bit more to go. The reason was that they are completely surrounded by wyverns. The man was thinking that it's over for them. There is no way to escape now from these ferocious creatures. There is also no way to kill all of them and survive. He was frozen from panic. He couldn't see any way out. At the same time, Jeongeum declared that he cannot hide anymore, and told Pax to use the mana stones to lower the cooldown. The driver was also confused now. Who is Pax and what is he doing there? The wyverns started screeching and then they attacked the two men. The driver believed that this is where he's going to die. The next thing he heard was ship, and something shot past him. Then, the protagonist told him that everything is alright. When Yongsu looked back, he was able to see the portal and through it, the inside of the fulfillment center. The protagonist kept upgrading the cooldown of his shipping ability, lowering the waiting time from 30 to 25, then to 20, and so on until he reached 5 seconds. At that moment, the drone announced that in order to further upgrade the cooldown, the subspace level needs to be upgraded. Yongsu was still surprised by what he has seen, but at least the wyverns were dead. Then, the mana stone collection started, and Jeongeum told his companion that from now on he needs to stay beside him, because that's the only way he can protect him. Yongsu said yes while he couldn't understand what is going on or what is that portal. Then, another wyvern attacked, and the protagonist managed to stop it in time. But there were more coming, all were rushing towards the two men. Their main target seemed to be Yongsu because the next one went straight for him. The protagonist managed to defend him with another portal, but the man was pushed back. At the same time, another wyvern was getting ready to attack from above. Jeongeum shipped another axe, but the agile monster managed to dodge it, going straight for the protagonist this time. Right before he was about to get eaten, he backed into his portal, and the beast wasn't able to follow him. From inside the fulfillment center, another axe was delivered right into the head of the wyvern, sending it flying back. Seeing all this, Yongsu was thinking that this is an unbelievable ability. From the logistics center to the flying axes, he wasn't able to understand what was going on. But he was sure about one thing: for Jeongeum, these monsters aren't a problem. The tunnel is not going to be an issue for this man, he can break through it easily. The reason they want to use a delivery vehicle is because they can carry food and move relatively fast. The tunnel is just a part of the route, but they will encounter monster everywhere else. But for the protagonist is different, he needs the vehicle just as a means of transportation. That made Yongsu envious. With such an ability, he could get to his family. But how far does he need to go in order for him to need a vehicle? Then, they noticed that the wyverns are running away. They concluded that the monsters got scared. Seemed like their level of intelligence is high enough to understand that the protagonist is a real threat for them. Jeongeum wanted to get more mana stones so he can upgrade his abilities more, but the monsters ran away. Noticing the shiny stones, Yongsu asked what are they, and his savior asked if this is the first time he saw one. Seeing that he never seen one, answered that it's used to upgrade abilities. The driver was surprised to hear that the abilities can be enhanced, and then said that he will try when he gets the chance. The protagonists remembered that they didn't extract the mana stone from the orc they killed inside their base, so they don't know about the stones. Yongsu then said that he didn't expect such an ability, axes being fired like bullets. With such a power, his savior can clear the tunnel alone. The protagonist didn't know what to say. He felt that he got caught on the plan to clear the tunnel alone and then leave. Then, he said that he didn't come here with that intention, he only wanted to check if the tunnel can actually be cleared. And if it was, then he would secretly break through. He didn't mean to show off his abilities like that. Hearing this, the driver apologized for getting in the way, and Jeongeum said that it's fine because he didn't know the way and also he wouldn't have been able to break through. He also added that they should go back because the wyverns might attack again. Yongsu asked how far does he want to go, that he needs a vehicle. To which, his savior answered that he needs to go see his family in Wjeongbu, so he first needs to go to Gangnam. That gave the driver an idea, and said that he is going to Indeokwan, which is on the way to Gangnam, so he asked the protagonist to go together, as they are going the same direction. He then added that even if he manages to go through the tunnel, there are still many monsters on the other side, and with his ability, he cannot fend off monsters. If they go together, Jeongeum can fight off the monsters while he drives. It's tough to reach Gangnam, but he promised to reach Indeokwan faster than anyone. He might not be the greatest help, but he won't be a burden. The protagonist was thinking that this is a great idea. Yongsu is a really good driver, plus this gives him an excuse to keep his abilities hidden. If his abilities become known, he has no idea what they might do. He might be overthinking, but he might have to prepare for something he doesn't want. The best way is to hide his ability, plus he trusts Yongsu, because he risked his life to help him reach the tunnel. He then said that they have a deal, Yongsu will drive them to Indeokwan, which made the driver very happy, but the protagonist had some conditions. He will handle the tunnel alone because other people will only get in the way, and he also wants to keep his abilities hidden. So Yongsu needs to convince everyone to leave the tunnel clearing to Jeongeum, to which condition, the driver agreed immediately. Back at the underground terminal, Yongsu informed everyone that they can make it through the tunnel. Jeongeum will clear the tunnel with his awakened abilities while they wait outside until the job is done. He also added that people might be curious about his abilities, but they shouldn't be, because what is certain is that he will break through the tunnel. Hearing all this, the protagonist was thinking that he just told him a secret, and no, he is already spilling it. The survivors were surprised to hear that they won't have to do anything while the tunnel is being cleared. Then they asked if he can tell them how is he going to clear the tunnel, and Yongsu answered that no. That made Jeongeum think that he is screwed, because the driver is saying only things that is making him look untrustworthy. But the die was already thrown, they have no choice but to move forward. He then declared that by tomorrow morning, the tunnel will be cleared and everyone will be able to leave. He was thinking that this is not very convincing, but they are concerned about their food situation, so he has to clear the tunnel quickly. That way their worries about food will be eased. Then, his thoughts were interrupted by Jean Mok, who stated that he won't ask about his ability or be curious about it. If not interfering helps him, then they won't interfere. But while he was scouting the tunnel, they put together some of their reserved food supplies to give him. He risked his life for them, and all they can do is give him some food. And now he is even going to clear the tunnel for them. Then, he apologized because all they can do is to offer their sincere thanks. The protagonist stated that he is doing this because he needs to. There is no need for them to thank him like that. Also, they should keep the food because it was saved for themselves and their families. Yongsu interjected and said that he should just accept the food because everyone made an effort to share it with him. It will be rude to reject it. Plus, they aren't the only ones who have a family to take care of, the protagonist also has one. While everyone was talking about how they are going to leave that place tomorrow, Jeongeum was thinking about his family, and if they are safe. The survivors decided that it's time to bring out the drinks because they have a reason to celebrate. Jean Mok said that they don't have much left, but maybe that's for the best. They will drink a bit, and then they will head out to see their families tomorrow. Everyone was happy, toasting for leaving that place, for their families and for the help of Jeongeum. The next day, in front of the tunnel, the protagonist told everyone to not worry and just wait until he clears the way. Then, he got on his bike and headed towards the tunnel, promising that he will be back. Thank you for watching the first part of Hiding a Logistics Center in the Apocalypse. Please drop a like and subscribe if you liked it. Also let us know in the comments if you want me to continue the series. Goodbye.